we have a stage demo right now, and we have Liam Sharp. Say hello, Liam, to your adoring fans.
Oh, there's two of them out there, I know.
Way more than that. There's one.
3. We got any more than 3? 3 or 4,
yes.
maybe?
Yes.
Woohoo.
There you go. Yeah. So I just heard some really exciting news that I did not know, and it's about your recent project with a certain other Brit.
Yeah, Green Lantern with Grant Morrison. It was announced a couple of days ago. We're doing a whole new series, all on Hal Jordan, basically. So it's a space cop procedural with, of course, Grant Morrison style weirdness, as you might expect.
I can't think of a better group to do that.
To which end I'm going to draw one of the weird lanterns that you see. We love this guy. We're calling him what's his name? Magmax. So he's basically a Green Lantern with a head of a volcano, which is the Mad Max. Magmax he's called. Yeah, but his head is a volcano, which is the weirdest thing. But he's awesome.
So is that a new, like a new character that was
No,
made?
he has been in before. Trying to think who drew him back in the day. Back in the 80s, he made a few appearances.
It's an 80s thing?
Yeah.
Right on. So is this a dream project for you? Have you always wanted, I mean, do you like Green Lantern? Have you always
I
wanted...
love the Green Lantern. I kind of, the Neil Adams era was particularly, that was my hell.
Yeah.
But just getting to work with Grant as much as anything. But I'm a sucker for like a space epics, and that was always the kind of stuff that I loved when I was a kid,
Yeah, yeah. So describe what you're doing right now. Like, how do you start? How do you start getting in the mood and start what you're doing right now?
It's true, actually. You kind of do have to create like a mind temple for yourself a little bit. And it's very hard to do that when you're doing this. Drawing and talking is a bit like doing that. It's like, so if I wander off at a tangent or start making any sense, or start making sense would be good. But if I stop making sense, then you'll have to forgive me. But yeah, my process is quite light on the pencils, because I do so much of the work in the inks.
Okay.
But I'm a sucker for texture and detail. The 3 or 4 people who are my fans would know this.
You have a question?
Yeah. So, Liam, I was looking at your art, and I'm going through my Mobius phase right now, as a young artist or writer should, right? And I was looking at Blueberry, and I was like, wait a second. Liam, some of your line work is kind of reminiscent of that. Are you pulling from that? And what other sources are you pulling from?
It's like, I think a lot of people who come out of England are very influenced by the European creators as well as the American creators. So we end up with this kind of mid-Atlantic style, which pulls from lots of different audiences. Mobius was like one of my absolute favorites when I was a kid. So I kind of like, from the American side, I love people like Barry Smith and all of the crazy detail that he used to do. So he would do, a very sort of pre-Raphaelite intensity. I'm a sucker for that. But I love Mobius's, things like rocks. I think I got a lot of my rock techniques from Mobius.
What other influences do you have?
He gives good rock.
Yeah, that is true. Nice dimensions and.
Yeah.
So, what other influences do you have?
A lot of my guys are really out of this, even the 60s and 70s. People like Frazetta and John Buscema was just one of my all-time favorites growing up. Oh man, Conan was like, I loved that stuff with Alfredo Alcala inking that, and it was so beautiful and dense. It looked like woodcuts, so that was a big influence. Bernie Wrightson, of course, he was a big influence, and I guess even though the work I'm doing, even though I know it's going to be coloured, in my head I'm always drawing for black and white. The colouring's so good now that you can actually get away with that. people always say, "Oh, I feel sorry for your colorist because of all the detail." Actually, it makes it easier because that means they don't have to put the textures in. I do all that for them.
Do you ever color your own stuff?
I have done, yeah. I did I pretty much did the whole thing. I did an Aliens graphic novel a few years ago, and I penciled it, inked it, wrote it, and colored it. So I did the whole thing back in the day.
Nice.
But because my inking technique, my drawing technique is so labor intensive, I tend not to.
Yeah.
And honestly, although it's fun coloring, there's no way I could even compete with someone like Laura Martin, who colored me on Wonder Woman. She was just incredible. And Romulo Fajardo Jr., he colored me on The Brave and the Bold. Just those guys, they're doing a whole new kind of thing with the coloring.
Who's going to be your colorist on this Green Lantern project?
So we have such a veteran team on this. We've got Tom Osikowski on the lettering, which I'm really thrilled about. But the coloring is Steve Oliff coming back. He hasn't done any for a couple of years, and he was feeling the urge.
Nice.
So even on that sense, it's going to have a slightly old school feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that what you and Grant are going for? Kind of a throwback, but also, I mean, obviously, you guys are always looking towards the future. But are you trying to capture like some of the oldness and?
It's a consolidation, really, of decades of Green Lantern material. So long-term fans are going to get a kick out of some old faces that they might not recognize. You know, in the first issue, we've got a girlfriend that's not been seen for 50 years. So she's looking pretty good, I must say.
Yeah, she didn't get too worn down. I'm glad she's coming back out. So what character is that?
Yeah, Eve. It was one of his early girlfriends. She's like an heiress. But he has many girlfriends.
Yes.
This is a real sort of unreconstructed man. He doesn't really want to be on Earth. He's like, he can't hold down a job. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go from like being a pilot, a test pilot, to being like an insurance salesman. It's like, and and a toy salesman at one point. So there's Grant really knows his stuff. When I'm looking through the script, he will go off on a tangent sometimes, and I'll be reading sort of a description of a panel, and he'll suddenly start talking about issues from the 60s, very particular, and one alien on one page that he wants to put in because he just thought it was weird and cool, and we got to do that again. So and suddenly you've read 4 pages, and that's just one panel description.
Oh, nice. We got another question. Actually, I'm going to take one back there, and then we'll get back to you.
You mentioned that one of your inspirations was John Buscema. What cover is your favorite that caught your eye about him? Because he's one of my favorite artists too.
What? Sorry.
From John Buscema, cover from him that inspired you.
What work of his in particular?
I don't know, Silver Surfer or Thor.
Oh yeah, Conan for me. It was the Alcala stuff. Yeah. I mean, I love his Thor stuff too. It's just so beautiful. Honestly, any Buscema is worth looking at. Any of it. Even, his stuff is so solid that even if you get somebody like a Bill Sienkiewicz inking him, which he did later on, who you might imagine would sort of, because Bill's got such a strong stylistic approach. I know he's also one of my all-time favorites. Actually, Bill's a big influence, weirdly, on my work. There's a lot of the texture stuff, because I've worked with Bill on some stuff in the past. But even when he works over Buscema, you can still tell it's Buscema. It's astonishing.
That is amazing. All right, we got another question.
So you were talking about working with Grant on scripts, and I don't know if you know this, but I want to write for DC.
I have noticed this thing.
I know, right? I've been at like every panel.
You're right.
Is it helpful for you as an artist to have a shorter script, like brief panel descriptions and just kind of get to the point? Or do you kind of like it when the artist goes, the writer goes on a rant and goes kind of crazy?
Honestly, the thing about scripts is everyone's an individual and everyone has their own way of doing it. So working with Greg Rucka on Wonder Woman, it was very different to Grant. Greg was very on the nose with it. You get more emotional direction from Greg. He would be specific about the feelings he wanted to be portraying. Grant's much more of an ideas man, so you have a very different sort of feel from Grant for that. And he's also, you know, super. He goes deep with his nerdiness, you know. Grant's stuff is really entertaining to read because he will take you, like I say, on digressions about his childhood in the middle of a script. And that's really fun, you know, that's fun too. So, keep checking the time. I've got plenty of time, I'm fine.
I have a question. When it comes to working with Grant, I mean, he is, I've read his scripts, like just the, you know, what I think you guys get. Is there any time where, I mean, he has such a kind of crazy, weird, unique vision. Is it sometimes hard for you to translate? I mean, do you guys have to talk it out a lot, or is it pretty easy for you to just get what he wants?
You know, he has a crazy vision, but he's also a collaborator, and if he trusts you, and generally, you know, Grant wanted to do this book with me, which was, so it was something he had me in mind as he was writing stuff.
Yeah.
And he kind of was clear up front that, look, if you want to tell it in a different way, that's fine. So they have, I mean, pretty much I've stuck exactly with his suggested page layouts, and, well, not layouts so much, but panel count and everything. Mm-hmm. But in a couple of instances, like there's in issue 2, there's a shot of the city of Io, and I wanted, it was one of 5 panels, and I just thought, actually, this is part of a spread, so I turned the spread into 2 pages instead of just a spread, and then made that a single panel shot, because I just wanted to really go huge on the city. And he was totally cool with that, and he said anytime you can think of it, it's he loves to push the kind of narrative, what do you call it, the tropes, really. He likes to really try new things. Yeah. So he's always like, if we can think of any way that's never been done before. But that's pretty hard. Yeah. You know? Especially when he's already done all of that many times over.
Is it kind of hard to change gears? I mean, probably not, but you were kind of working on a Batman book before this, right?
I did way back in the 90s. Okay. But I was almost a different artist then, you know.
Yeah.
So you review it when you come back to it. Mm-hmm. My up to date, my most recent one in like the Brave and the Bold, he was very different to how I did him back then. I used to kind of I used to be reaching for a more kind of over-the-top stylized approach to things, but as I've got older, I've just really wanted to just draw it as well as I can and not reach for, you know, a particular crazy stylization. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, and this is probably like the best advice I've got for anyone starting out, is like, don't try and force a style. Just work really hard, think about the drawing. The style will come naturally. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to be trendy, you don't have to be cool. You have to learn how to draw really, really well and do it every day for hours on end. And there's no point doing it unless you love it, because
it's hard.
Exactly. It is a relentless pursuit.
Yeah, how do you deal with the demands of the speed? I mean, you have to do so much of that. Is it because of practice that you've been able to do it so much? I learned
not to procrastinate. And that, which is hard, actually, you know, because we're in a world of, especially with the internet and, you know, the fact that we're all so plugged in the whole time. Not procrastinating and staying away from little endorphin hits that you might get from going on Twitter. Mm-hmm. Or getting involved in the rage. That's, you know, because you can be like, what? Why am I being so hated on? Just because I drew Diana with Batman. I didn't say they were getting married or anything. No.
We'll leave that to other people. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about this character? I mean, I'm transfixed on how you're building him. Why did you decide to do this right now? And what is it about this character that you like?
I did this one. I'm doing this one because he's just so weird. But he's awesome. And also, because drawing beautiful things, whether it's, Wonder Woman's the hardest thing to draw. Drawing her beautifully, people always say, why? It's because you can never draw perfection, you can't. She is perfection. So every single drawing I've ever done of her is not good enough. Every one. That's because I'm trying to imagine what a goddess looks like and how to make her in 2-dimension and out of, paper and ink. It's impossible.
Yeah. Oh. Does anyone have any questions?
So I'm drawing this guy because he's got no head. And I don't have to make him beautiful.
Hello, Liam.
Hey,
amazing work, man. One thing, you just did the Brave and the Bold. Is there any idea to do other Brave and the Bold stories?
I really hope so.
Characters?
I mean, so I snuck in the script at the end. I said end of book 1, and they let me put it in there, which I think is a good sign. So I'm hoping that, of course it was a new launch, a new book. Nobody knew how well it was going to go down. It was received really well. I think it had great word of mouth, and critically it was very well received. So I think the chances are much better now than they were, a few months ago. And like I say, the fact that they let me put that in is cool. My ideal for it is that it's a trilogy. So I want to do eventually it to have been 18 issues. So it's a great big compendium of Brave and the Bold. I don't know yet if it would be definitely the same 2 characters. There's no reason for it to be. It'll depend on how the story evolves. So if it's appropriate for Diana, then I'll make it Diana. I mean, of course, I'd always love to come back to her again, and I can't imagine that I've drawn the last of her. I just can't imagine that. So, but we'll see. I mean, I'm committed to 12 issues of this. And it'll be down to, how much fun we're having, whether Grant has completely broken me or not.
One thing at a time, that's for sure.
Whether I can still see, because the detail I'm putting. God, if you thought I was putting detail in the Brave and the Bold, that was just a warm up.
As far as this project, is there anything spoiler type of, but not too much, that you can give us, something to look forward to that you were pretty excited about as well?
Don't spoilers.
I want to know.
Do you know what? So here's the thing. Grant has written an overview for it that went through editorial. I got it. I never read it because I don't want to know what's coming. One of the things the nearest I'm going to get as an artist to reading the book and having the experience that the readers have is every time I pick up the script. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, once you finish an issue, it's a tiring process. And you need anything that can give you extra energy to get going on the next project. And picking up the new script, it always gives you an excitement and boosts you and makes you feel, much more. I don't know, just you get excited all over again.
Yeah.
When you get in, if I knew 3 or 4 scripts ahead what was coming, there's a certain point of you feel like you've already drawn it because you know it really well, So.
Yeah. That's a good point. Absolutely.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Cheers, thank you. With Grant's scripts, it's very much a call of either he's looking back and definitely embracing classic elements of a story, or he's very much drawing a line and looking forward. Can you tease which way he's going with this book? Is he looking forward, or is he certainly doing his greatest hits?
It's what he's done, which I love, is create a book that you could pick up if you've never read a Green Lantern book before. It's a good place to start. But if you are a fan and really know the stuff, it's full of Easter eggs.
That's a great. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, we're almost out of time, but we're obviously going to watch this explosion happen, and we will want to probably give this away. So we're going to have to do a little of a trivia. But I could probably take one more question as he kind of concentrates on that. You have one? Yeah. You have one. Sorry, I'm going to give.
Well, just a question about this new project. Is it a mini-series or is it a continuing series? You said you signed up for 12
It's
issues.
ongoing. Grant's already got ideas beyond 12. I'm committing to 12 for sure, and it's just me on those 12, and we'll see after that. It'll depend on numerous things. You know, whether how long we feel we can leave it for me to go back to Brave and Bold if that's going to happen, or whether I'm just having so much fun that we just keep going, you know. So it's a little bit up in the air, really.
Yeah, you never know.
Grant's fully sort of invested. He's just gleefully enjoying every little idea.
So when's the first issue hitting?
November.
November.
Yeah.
Okay. November, everybody. Don't forget that. I definitely will not as well. Okay, so to get this out into the world, I'm going to ask a trivia question. It's going to be something we already talked about, so I'm not original with that. But who is the character that we mentioned that was going to be coming back? She hasn't been there for 50 years. What's her name? All right. You are the proud owner of this beautiful original sketch by Liam Sharp.
Yvonne. Ivan.
Well, thanks, everybody, and I hope you have a great show. Keep coming back to the booth. We have giveaways, we have fun things going on throughout the weekend, and more stage demos. So thank you very much.
Thank you.